morning. Good morning to music. Good morning and welcome to Atlanta A&T University Marching Band Training. If you are here, it is because you have a fervent, unequivocal belief in teamwork. Section leaders, what is our concept?
One band, one sound.
One band, one sound.
One band, one sound.
One band, one sound.
Dubious descent, most band, little twins. Salty or sweet, pair it up with some little men. So go for hummus, got a feeling you love it. The savory flavors are coming together. Rest when all that's above us. Switch again, Kirkland's is a big cheese.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Casting Networks live stream. I am super excited to talk to our guest today. He is from one of the largest agencies in the Southeast. He is a great friend of mine, a wonderful person. Please welcome President of People Store, Rick Estimond. Yay. You know, I never call you by your last name. Am I saying that right? Estimond?
You nailed it.
All right. I mean, like, I always just like Rick, but it would be weird if I like called you by your full name.
That's funny. That I feel like I don't think I've ever tried to say your last name.
Don't worry about it.
I try, and you nailed it. Kalukas?
Kalukas is right. Yeah.
We're good at this.
Yeah, we're good. We've got it all. We've got it all figured out. Excited to talk to you. We have a lot of people here saying hello as well. I just got to ask you, how's everything going? So you're for people who may not know, People Store is an agency in Atlanta. How's everything going in Atlanta? It's interesting, just like everywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, it's going okay, I guess. It's fine, man. I think the thing that I've been taking from everything that's been going on is just sort of having perspective.
Yeah.
And just realizing that, this is really sort of a challenging time, but, that's what life is all about. Our grandparents, had to deal with the Great Depression and world wars and, and things like that or whatever. And, not to put this on the level of that, but, we have, this is our challenge and the thing that we have to grow through. So, but yeah, all things considered, personally, I'm doing just fine. I'm healthy. My family is doing good. So yeah, it's all good, man.
Excited. I'm glad to hear that. So the topic is finding joy as an actor. So I want to talk about that a lot today. You're a joyful person, despite the nature of your work being filled with unrelenting pressure and deadlines. How do you find joy in the process as an agent?
Well, I already used this word, but perspective is huge. That there used to be an agent that worked at People Store who would always say, I always quote her all the time, but she always says that we're not delivering fresh organs. And that it's important to sort of like keep things in perspective and realize that honestly, I think we have a fun job, Yeah. And when I like take a step back and realize like, oh, I'm just trying to like book an actor on a commercial or try to get someone on this movie or, and all that, like it's a fun job, And if you're able to sort of like, when time allows, to take that step back and look at the grand picture and realize like, I'm doing something worthwhile and something interesting and entertaining. That of course there are those challenges, but overall, what else would I have more joy doing?
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's great, having that perspective, because I think all of us, no matter what we're doing, we have those moments. Even if maybe some people on the outside look at that and they're like, wow, that's a great job, but it's still a job, right? So there's still those days where you're like, I just don't want to do this today. I just like, I'm burnt out. But if you take a step back and realize that you're like, hey, I'm pretty blessed. I got a pretty, great thing here. I have people around me that I like coming to work with. It's easy enough to focus on the negative, but if you focus on the positive, then I think it's just it just changes your mindset about everything else.
For sure. Gratitude. Like it's hard to complain when you take the time and the energy to just be mindful of the things that you're grateful for. And so yeah, so I have a lot to express gratitude to. So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, and I think from an actor's perspective too, like it's one of the most fun jobs in the world, and it's something that when you tell people, they're like, "Oh, that's great," but it's still a job. It's still a grind. There's still a lot of hard work that goes into it, but ultimately, you're doing something that other people, wish that they could do, or I guess have the guts to do as well.
I tell actors that all the time. Like, it is hard, like there are definitely challenges and obviously, a lot of times when people think about acting as a profession, that, you automatically go to the super successful actors and you
Right.
think about, being on red carpets and sort of, the glamorous side of it. But that, when you really think about like what life is like for your average everyday working actor, it's hard.
Yeah.
There are challenges, but I think that even as an average everyday working actor, that there's lots of joy to be had, and that every moment, every opportunity that you get could be the opportunity that changes your life. And you get this opportunity to be a part of storytelling,
Yeah.
and that's such an important part of growth for a society. Um, and so yeah, so I think that it's a really fun and important job, that there's plenty of joy in acting, even though it's challenging. And honestly, the challenges I think is part of what makes it joyful. Like what is life if you don't have those obstacles and those things that you have to overcome,
Right. And it's next to impossible these days, but do you have any tips at eliminating distractions? Because I think that's one key to feeling happy and successful. It's hard though.
Yeah, I think that, well, at least for me, that I sort of rather than try to eliminate distractions, because sometimes it's hard. They're just going to be things that pop up. I've always worked to try to schedule distraction time.
Hey,
Um,
that's
y-
interesting.
so like for instance, obviously social media is like a double-edged sword, that it's this great tool to be able to connect and to put your content out there, and there's so much stuff on there, but it can also just be a distraction.
Yeah, an enormous distraction
An
sometimes.
enormous distraction.
Yeah.
And there was a time there for me where social media had started to just eat up too much of my time, and a part of what I do on social media is my work. But also, you can get sucked down the rabbit hole of just looking at TikTok videos, and so what I've always strived to do is to schedule time for distractions, or for things like that. It's like, all right, this is going to be the time, this week, that I'm going to spend an hour just like looking at videos and doing whatever. That makes me feel a little bit better that I have that time. I do that then. But then otherwise, I think it's one of those things. I'm a huge proponent of meditating,
Yeah.
and sort of figuring out how to be mindful and be able to be present in a moment, even though you have distractions, like my phone was just ringing.
Yeah.
Um, but trying to figure out, how to be able to be present, to give people your focus, to give the thing that you're working on at that moment your focus, because we're in an ever more distracting world, and I don't think that that's going to change. I think that probably what needs to change is that um, us,
Yeah.
and how we manage those distractions, and how we figure out our space to be present, even though there are those distractions.
So, with that, how important is time management and organization to you? Do you have tips on things that you do that could help people listening?
Well, yeah, it's I can't be the president of a big talent agency and not really focus on my time management. It's hard,
Yeah.
because the one thing that's really sort of been communicated to me with the pandemic is that you can't plan everything, you know? And I spent all of 2019 sort of like planning for 2020.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do this thing in first quarter, and we're going to do this. And then, similarly, I try to plan my days and try to have sort of a routine and whatever. And then 2020 comes in and just like punches all that in the face.
Yeah.
And I've been like sort of forced to be in the moment and sort of deal with things as they come,
Yeah.
like, and obviously you don't want to live your life completely that way, sort of like dealing with things moment to moment. But I think that that there is value in that, and sort of being able to take a step back and say, all right, well, I can't control everything. I can't control all the outcomes. I can't plan everything out. So if I can find that balance of being able to try to map things out, make my time in my day where I do this thing, where I get up at a certain time, I eat breakfast, I try to work out, I meditate or whatever. And if something happens in the morning that disturbs my routine, I've got to be able to roll with the punches and not let that destroy sort of my day. Like, oh crap, I didn't do any of the things that I planned to do today. I was a failure today. Like I can't, I can't have that perspective. I got to know that that each day is its own day, and you do the best that you can, and it's all part of the whole adventure.
I think it's so easy to fall into that trap of going, oh, I had this thing set for today and this one thing didn't go the way planned. So my whole day's ruined. I might as well just scrap the rest of the plan and not do anything else. I've done it before where I'm just like, forget all of this. But really, and this is said a lot, where you can't control what happens to you or the things that come at you in your life, but you can control how you react to it.
Absolutely.
That's 100% in your control.
For sure, for sure.
So there have been a lot of great minds that have said the key to happiness is solving problems, and I've found that to be true in my life. If I don't have a problem to solve or focus on, I feel like I don't have a purpose, and that leads to me being down on myself or depressed. And sometimes it's a group effort that I have to bring other people in and work on. But I find that my satisfaction comes from, and my growth comes from, seeing a problem and solving it myself, and knowing that like, hey, I didn't know how to solve this at first, but I figured it out. So that's a long way of saying, what are some problems that you see actors come to you with, or they rely on their agent to solve, that it might be beneficial for them to try and solve on their own?
That's a really good question, Tommy. I think that, so, and maybe this is, I don't know, maybe this is unique to our market in Atlanta, but I think that sometimes actors sort of, agents do so many things, I think sometimes, that sometimes the actors want to rely on your agent to perhaps do things that maybe are not your agent's responsibility. Right?
Sure.
That I think that at least for our agency, for sure, that we try to be so many things and try to be a great support system for our actors. But I still feel like that there's so many elements of having an acting career that, like you said, that they're kind of your responsibility as an actor, and they're also part of the journey and part of the joy. That obviously your agent isn't going to help you become a sharper actor. Like and there are a lot of us agents who are connoisseurs of acting, and maybe that's how we got into the business, is that maybe once wanted to be an actor, but I think that you got to rely on your coaches and all of that to for your training. That's where you do all of that. But that otherwise, I think that being an actor is all about sort of growth and being able to like reflect the world back to people through your performance.
Yeah.
And the relationship that you have with your agent is about it's a partnership. It's not a one thing I always make sure that I tell actors is that you should not see me as your agent as an authority figure, but somebody who's here to support you and work with you. But the relationship that you have with your agent is one in which I'm here to be sort of like your sidekick, and to put you in the best positions to be successful. But ultimately, it's on you to spread your wings and fly and book the role. And if for whatever reason you're getting those opportunities, but you're not booking them, the conversation that you have with your agent is to sort of help figure that out. I sometimes get questions from actors who sort of feel like, well, I'm not seeing the success that I would like to see, and well, maybe it's your fault. And that's not to say that that maybe it is. Maybe me as your agent, maybe I'm not sending you the right opportunities. But I think the approach might be to sit down and hash that out. That you get together with your partner that you're working with to sort of like figure out what it is. Like what are we missing? What is the Rubik's cube here that we need to like solve and figure out together. And what a gratifying experience it'll be to know that, man, this was really hard, and I had sort of a drought where I wasn't booking, but I figured it out, and here I am. I'm working. I'm booking bigger and better jobs than I did before. There's so much joy to be had there.
Yeah. So one thing I've heard from some of the most successful people is that you can't have a backup plan. You only have 24 hours in a day, and any time and resources, et cetera, that you dedicate to plan B is time you're taking away from plan A. Do you find this to be true with the successful actors at your agency?
I think so. I think that to the extent that you want to make sure that your acting career isn't sort of like a side hustle. And that, because I do know actors who do other things, that they have an acting career, but they also, they have to have their like survival job, that they do real estate, or they do, they wait tables or whatever it is. But that to me isn't like plan B.
Right.
That's to me is sort of like plan A. And it's like the thing that, it's the thing that you do to support plan A.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think though in order to really be successful as an actor, if it's the thing that you're truly passionate about, then you want to dedicate all the focus and energy that you can to doing it. That you can't sort of like live in two worlds, or be like have one foot in, one foot out. Like, yeah, I'm gonna like try to pursue this acting career, but I also kind of need to do this other thing just in case that this doesn't work out. It's rare that you see people find success when they're sort of operating that way. I think more than anything, the people that I know who are trying to do two things that way are some of the most stressed, frustrated people. Because it's hard. I think that even when an acting career can be challenging, and maybe you don't have all the things that you need from a financial standpoint when you're first sort of like making the decision, this is what I'm doing. It's hard, but I think that there's at least peace in realizing like, all right, I've committed to this thing. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do whatever it takes to, support this journey, to support this this desire and this passion that I have, and sort of just let the chips fall where they may. So.
No, I think that's great. It's fine if it is something that you're doing on the side, but set your expectations accordingly, right?
Exactly.
This might be you're going to get capped at so high of a level if it's not your plan A, I think.
No doubt.
And I like what you said as well about like your job that you need to survive is not plan B. That's what you're using to help you with your plan A.
For sure.
I think that's great.
No doubt.
So this is kind of a weird question, but what's the biggest complaint that you hear from actors, and what advice do you give them regarding it?
This isn't necessarily like a complaint, but I think the thing I hear from actors a lot is sort of the lack of getting feedback.
Sure.
And I know that's a huge challenge, especially nowadays, in the world of self-taping, and especially now the self-taping is growing even more now. And so it's a double-edged sword. It's nice, to not have to travel across town to go to an audition, that you can put it on tape and send it in. But the downside is that you're not getting that human interaction, and you're not getting the feedback. And so that's the thing that we hear a lot from actors, or it's like, well, do you guys ever get feedback? Does casting ever, share any thoughts or whatever? And I think it's hard for casting, especially if they're seeing lots and lots of tapes. I always say to actors that the only time that I ever hear feedback from a casting director is if you did something awful.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Or conversely, if you did something really incredible, but usually, if that's the case, if you turned in a really, really great audition, and, if casting feels compelled to say something, usually it's because they're interested in, taking you to the next level of, potentially booking that gig.
Yeah.
So, so I know that it's not the answer that a lot of actors want to hear, but, getting the opportunities is in itself feedback.
Yeah.
That especially if certain casting directors are calling you in consistently, I think that definitely indicates that they like you. That if a casting director saw a tape from you and thought, man, this actor really sucks, they're trash. They would they would not consistently call you in. So that's at least feedback. But then otherwise, hopefully you get opportunities to be able to consult with your agents, and get other avenues, because I totally get it. Like if you're, especially, if you're sending lots and lots and lots and lots of self tapes out into the ether, and you're not hearing anything, you're not, whatever, that's hard. Like, am I doing this right? Do I suck at this? Am I good? Am I, what's going on here? You do kind of need to get something to bounce off of. So I think if you're unable to get that from casting directors, I think you should definitely try to ask from your agents. What do you think about this sub tape? Is the lighting good? How is my performance? Whatever. But then also too, from your scene partners, from other actors that you trust, and whatever. I think that you got to do the best you can to get feedback that's valuable, from avenues that you can actually get it. Because it's really hard to get it from casting. They're just super busy.
Yeah, no, it's true though. If you're being requested, even if you're being requested for self tapes, often it means that they're seeing something that they like, and just from knowing the casting director side of it, they're getting all these submissions and they're going through and they're saying, hey, this actor, I know who they are, or hey, this actor fits that role. Let's bring them into audition. So think of it like if you're applying to a job online and you're sending stuff in. I guess it's a little bit different, but and you're getting job interviews, and that's a good step, because a lot of people aren't even getting an interview.
For sure.
So it's the same thing there.
There are a lot of actors I meet like that that feel like that they're not having success. And obviously, there are varying degrees of what you want to achieve as an actor. But I think it's always something positive to know that if casting directors are consistently asking for you, even if you haven't booked, that's a win in and of it. That that people believe in you, and that there are any number of factors that may lead to, like, gosh, if an actor could see what happens on the casting side,
Yeah.
it would be very valuable whenever you get an opportunity to get to work on your own projects or whatever. And if you get a chance to cast, I think it's very eye-opening as an actor to get to see sort of like what goes into that decision-making process that a lot of times it has nothing to do with your performance or things that you really have any control over. That process, there's a lot of puzzle pieces there
Yeah.
you know, so that if you waste your energy sort of like beating yourself up and thinking like, oh man, like, I'm not seeing the kind of success that I want to see. Am I doing something wrong? That isn't helpful in the long run. There's so many factors, but if casting directors are calling you in consistently, you're at least doing something right. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. So an actor's career, just like everything else in life, has peaks and valleys. So, you'll have it's so easy to focus on the negative and really not see the positive, like we talked about earlier. But right now, in a lot of ways, you could say it's a valley, probably for a lot of actors, for a lot of just people in general in life. But how can I best prepare myself as an actor if I'm in a valley for that next peak?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they probably for a lot of a lot of actors, a lot of people, everybody, sort of everything that's been going on lately is sort of like um uh it's something.
That's a way to
It's
sum it up. It sure is
it's
something.
something, but
Yeah.
I think that, there are lots of different ways to sort of take what's going on and sort of, all the different moments that you have in your life, Um, uh, the advice I typically give when I'm speaking to actors one on one is that, you shouldn't sort of like uh, you shouldn't sort of see what you want to achieve as an actor as sort of like an island that's off in the distance, like, oh man, everything's going to be really good as soon as I arrive to like Success Island,
Yeah.
because there's just so many things. So even if you are an A-list actor, and you've achieved really great things, like it's still a moving target. You still want to do good work, and you still want to stay relevant, and so it's never like I've arrived. Now everything's cool, and I can finally be happy, and everything's great now.
I did it. It's all done.
I
Yeah.
done. Everything's cool now, So I
Yeah.
think that it's really important, to be able to recognize that it's all a part of the journey, and that you should try to find the ways to enjoy even the challenging and hard parts of it. I have to remind myself that
Yeah.
that that there are challenges every day in trying to run a business and trying to support actors, that I live and die with you guys. That it's the reason that I do this job and I enjoy it is because I get to be a part of uh that really incredible thing, calling an actor and saying, hey, you booked this gig and it's gonna change your life. You're gonna get to play the role that you've always wanted to play. And
It's got to be
um
amazing.
oh, it's incredible. It's a joy. But yeah, I think that if you don't allow yourself to sort of enjoy right now and to recognize that maybe right now isn't the place that I want to be, but I'm in a different place now than I was a year ago. And if you can always sort of take measure and take stock and say, well, hey, you know what? I've achieved more things this year than I did the year before. And I'm going to achieve more even from now, and I'm going to continue to grow. And if you're able uh, to enjoy the things that you're doing right now and sort of being on this path, like the joy is in the journey, is like silly as that sounds, but it is though, because like talk to any actor. I was just having this conversation with my brother who's he booked a series regular. He's always had this goal to be a series regular on a TV show, and he did it, and it's been really amazing. And of course, that first moment where it's like, book the job, it's so great, it's the most incredible thing to ever happen in your life. But then at some point, it sort of like evens out, and it's
Yeah.
sort of like becomes the norm, and you're used to having had that achievement,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh man, like it could be depressing that, if
Yeah.
you pinned everything to like achieving that goal and then you achieved it and that's like, okay, well now what,
Yeah.
there's plenty more to achieve and there's lots more to go. So definitely find the joy and have respect for what you're currently doing and sort of that process and that climb and that battle to get to where you're trying to get to.
Yeah, it's the progress and seeing that is what's the most rewarding. You hear this all the time. If you listen to like stand-up comics who say like, I bombed the first 1,000 times I've been up there. And you'll hear that from people like Dave Chappelle or like the best stand-ups. You're like, how's that even possible that you bombed?
Right.
They're like, no, I bombed all the time. And then there's stand-up comics that'll say, I bombed a week ago. Like I'm still, I have to learn a whole new set, and it's going to bomb for a while until I figure it out. And they're going through that same peak and valley where they're just like, yeah, I had that one really good special, but now I have to relearn everything and get ready for whatever the next thing is. And an actor's life is similar.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And yeah, when you those same comedians will also say that they learn way more, from having those setbacks, and sort of having to go back in the lab and retool. And I say that to actors too, that, if you have a career as an actor where everything always goes right, you'll never grow as an actor. You'll never get any better because you won't be challenged to, And so those moments where it was like, man, I didn't get the gig or whatever, and it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna keep at this. I'm gonna figure out how to get better. I'm gonna, take the steps to improve my career and make sure that I'm, the next time I've got a better chance at booking it or whatever. That those moments, you're gonna look back at those moments and be happy that you bombed. So yeah.
Before we get into the emailed in questions, I want to talk about luck for a second. So I hear this often, I'm sure you do as well, that it's all about who you know, and getting the job is all luck. And the same can be said about other industries as well. But is it really luck, or is it just hard for us to externally recognize the hard work that other people put into their career? Like, how much of it really is luck, as from your perspective as an agent?
From my perspective, I feel like it's interesting because, I think that it's almost like, this is always my answer to things, but balance. And it feels to me like you have to have the skill and the drive, and to sort of be in the right place to be lucky,
Right. Yep.
And so that, that even like, if you were fortunate enough to have an opportunity fall in your lap, but you weren't prepared to turn that opportunity into success, and it doesn't matter how lucky you are,
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are a lot of things, even when I look at my life and my journey, that there are a lot of things that I have to, for all the hard work that I put in, that there are times that I have to think, man, I was really fortunate to have, made this relationship, or, I got really lucky that this thing happened at this time. But I think it's both things, that you do. But I think you have to, I think, oh man, there's a podcast about this.
Well, I think it's, you talk about like it's all about who you know, right? And there's some people that are like, their parents are a famous actor, and that's one set. But for the majority of people, when they talk about who you know, it's like, well, they didn't just like randomly know people. They worked at it. So they met people on set. Maybe they worked as an extra and they talked to people there. They collaborated on something. I didn't know you until I came out to Atlanta and went to your agency. It's such a big agency. Just a little side note, I was terrified at first because I was like, oh, are they going to like me? Am I going to come off well? And then, we ended up hitting it off but not being afraid to have those interactions and really connect with people is key.
You're so right. I meet people all the time, I love getting to meet people, and sort of the people that I come in contact with who just want to make an interaction, and that you're right, that aren't like afraid to like, get to know people, and you just never know what it might turn into. And I'm a huge proponent for that. There's just so much to be had. That there are a lot of actor kids who like their dad was some famous person back in the day, but they're
Yeah.
not famous actors themselves. Like, you can have the luck, but you also need to do the work, and you have to be able to turn your good fortune into success. So it's both. It's both things for sure.
Awesome. So we got a lot of emailed in questions, so I'm going to get to them, and then we'll get to everyone's questions that they're chatting us with. So I received multiple variations of this question. I'm an LA-based actor who frequently works. What is the best way for an actor not living in Atlanta to acquire local representation?
Well, so this is sort of an interesting thing that that's happening. That for the longest we've had, as the market has continued to grow in the Southeast, that there are a lot of actors in different markets who are interested in trying to be able to work in Atlanta, and that's great. And we love to have more great actors. But I think the main thing is it can sometimes be a challenge. One of the things that's really helpful is that if you can work as a local hire, and if you've got family in the in the region, that's definitely helpful. But yeah, I mean, I think reach out to the different agencies that are based here, and find out what the needs are of their roster. It's not any different from having rep in LA, especially now, because I think we're living in a world that's gonna. We'll see. I think I hear like the new normal a lot, that we're gonna be in sort of a less regionalized world. But we'll see if that continues beyond the pandemic. But yeah, there should be some opportunities at this point. That people don't really care where you are, just as long as you can be where you need to be when it's time to do the job. So yeah, I think just reach out and find out what people are looking for on their rosters. And we represent quite a few actors that are based in LA and New York and and everywhere else that they have an interest in working in the Southeast.
Next question is, how did you become an agent, and what got you where you are today?
Let's see. How did I become an agent? I It's weird because I never had the desire to be an agent. It would probably be very low on the list of things I would have envisioned for myself, like graduating high school.
Yeah.
Though I've always had interest in entertainment, and I thought I wanted to be an actor, and then I learned very quickly I don't have the right level of talent. But
Yeah.
I don't have the thick skin. Like my feelings get hurt easily. And,
I'm the same way. I don't take rejection easily, and
right, I don't
yeah.
take the rejection well. So, but yeah, gosh, I went to school for PR at Georgia State. Shout out Georgia State. And got a PR degree. I graduated in 2008. During a recession, much like now, and things were really crappy. It was hard to find a job, and and during the sort of a perceived downtime, an opportunity presented itself to intern at People Store. This is over 10 years ago, and I started off as an intern, and I took the opportunity. That's one thing I always tell people, that sometimes an opportunity presents itself and it's not exactly the thing that you want to do. I had a PR degree, so I was trying to get a PR job, and a job at a talent agency wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, but I thought, what, why not? And come to find out that being in the agency world and working as an agent actually vibed with me. I didn't think it would, because I'd always watched Entourage and imagined that being an agent was Ari Gold, and maybe it is for some people, but it's not for me, and that hasn't been my experience. That obviously there's some challenges and negotiating and deadlines and difficult things like that, but also I get to help people, and I'm the sidekick. I'm the Sebastian to someone's Ariel, and I'm there sort of like helping to make dreams come true. So yeah, it's been really cool, and not what I would have imagined but it's been sort of a slow climb as an intern 10 years ago, and sort of building my way up to now being the president of the agency.
Amazing. What is the most important thing any actor can do when looking for a talent agent? Maybe I can change that to when pitching yourself to a talent agent. So what's the most important thing any actor can do?
You know, the way I used to answer this question pre-pandemic was more or less that it's easier for me as an agent to get a sense of who you are as an actor by actually getting to see you perform. And so, we get lots of submissions that come in. Or actually, now we don't. We've changed from being so now we're a referral only agency. But when we were accepting submissions, that it's hard to sort of like learn what an actor is capable of by looking at a headshot and a resume. And I feel like for me, I've always really enjoyed sort of meeting actors out and about at showcases and at plays and at film festivals and things like that. But that was pre-pandemic. Of course, now things have sort of shifted. But I think that there are still those opportunities to get to be in front of people and get your materials and your acting and your performing in front of agents. So that would be one thing. The other thing that I would say too is that I always enjoy an opportunity to meet actors who are more than just an actor. And Tommy, you and I talked about this a little bit at the beginning of our call, but that I meet actors all the time who feel like the way to be a really good actor is to eat, sleep, drink, acting. And those actors, in my estimation, are never the best actors. That it's really important to have like a full, well-rounded life, because again, you're reflecting life back to people. So it's important to have life experiences that you can draw from. And so I would also say, share your real interests in like the things that you do that have nothing to do with acting. I love when I meet actors who tell me about, they climbed a mountain and they've traveled the world and done this thing or that thing or or whatever, that they're an activist, or that they're all these different things that aren't just sitting in a classroom doing scene studies. Like that's important too, and it is. I'm not poo-pooing the craft, like working on the craft. That's important too, but I think it's equally important to be a real live human being and not an actor bot.
Yeah, it's important, and it's actually something I've heard from casting directors as well, where they're like, when you talk about actors ask that question all the time, like how can I have that conversation or talk to casting directors? Like they want to know that you're a real person, and it's there's more to you than just being an actor, and there is. You just have to show that and have that out. I want to talk about referrals for a second. So you said you're a referral only agency. So I'm sure some actors might wonder, does that mean a referral from another actor who's rep by People Store, an agent in LA, a casting director, all the above, or what does that mean?
Well, the person who is referring you, I mean, it carries different weight depending on who the referral is coming from. But we get referrals from actors that are on our roster all the time. But I will say that definitely a referral coming from a casting director or an acting coach that we know and respect, and that those definitely go further. But yeah, I mean, I think that if there's somebody who's connected to us who's willing to vouch for you and say, hey, this is an actor who's really, really great, I'd love to pass along their headshot and resume. I think that we're open to that kind of a referral. It can even be an actor that we represent, for sure.
So I'm going to go into the live Q&A just to make sure we have enough time, because we've got a lot of questions for you. So Jean asked, How many headshot looks should you post on a casting site?
Oh, that is a great question. We are big on making sure that our actors have a variety of different looks on all the websites. And the reason being is that that sort of enables us, it gives us as your agents the tools to be able to pitch you, and sort of make sure that uh, a casting director isn't having to visualize you in a role, um, but they're actually seeing you in whatever it is that we're pitching you for. So, if you've got a headshot uh, on your casting website that plays doctor, and I get a role for a doctor, I'm going to select that headshot, and I think that you'll have a higher probability that you get called in for that role. Um, Especially given how, because of the volume of things now, it's difficult for an agent to like pick up the phone and pitch like back in the day, and we do pitch for sure, but you can't depend on your agent to pitch every single time. We can't pitch for every single actor every single time. So we really need your headshots to do a little bit of the work for us, So if you've got a variety of different looks, and that's usually the advice that I give to actors, is to like spend some time watching TV, and uh, come up with like 5 archetypes of different roles that you think fit your essence, and then get headshots that fits each one of those archetypes. Then it makes it easier for us. Like, don't go too far. Like, don't do characters, and I've seen that before, where sometimes that's not where you want to go with it. But you kind of want to get in the ballpark of, okay, military or hipster, or whatever it is. And some, you have different looks that can fit lots of different roles. But it just needs to be true to your essence.
Yeah, a good
And
headshot.
have that discussion with your agent on what that essence is.
Yeah, a good headshot photographer can convey those looks without, giving you like the Village People like costume
Right.
photo shoot.
For sure.
So Lowell asked, should actors feel free to put 2 takes on a self-tape? I once heard that was a no-no. I like the
Well,
no-no.
yeah, so this is the part of our business that's tricky, and I get for actors it's hard because some things are subjective, because it's a question that we ask casting directors. That whenever I get an opportunity to sit and chat with a casting director, I'll ask them that question, and I think that there are some casting directors who will encourage that, and others who are very strict about, if I asked for 1 take, I only want 1 take. Um, I, I think. To me, I think that as far as that goes, I don't see the harm, I think that ultimately the hurt that you do by including an extra take, I think the risk that you're taking is minimal. And if you're giving a casting director an opportunity to see a different look, I think that that's a risk worth taking. That's my personal view of it. You may have different agents and different casting directors that tell you differently. But I think that what's probably more important is to make sure that you get to learn the different casting directors that you're auditioning for, and sort of what their preferences are. That you'll start to learn that yourself, and that can be something that you discuss with your agent. What do you think? Like, if for this particular casting director, there was an extra take that I did that was really cool. I'd like to submit both. Do you think that would be okay, or is it gonna be the end of the world for me? I think the answer is probably not, but I think it's fair to ask.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think more often than not, an extra take doesn't hurt as long as it adds to your audition, right? So it's
Right.
like, I don't want to just have a second and third take just for the sake of it, especially if all 3 takes are exactly the same.
True.
Or pretty much the same thing. It's like, okay, I have this scene and I have a couple different ways I want to approach it, and I'm not really sure how they want me to approach it, then maybe that makes more sense. But if it's like, I'm just going to do 3 takes just so they have 3 takes of the same thing, that's usually when casting is like, well, why did you send me 3 of the same video?
Good point. Good point. That's true. Yeah.
Let's see. We have so many questions. I'll take this one from Ray Nita. When submitting a self-tape, should the reader be just as engaged as the actor, or should they be flat? I've heard yes, that they should be engaged, and I've heard no, they should be flat. What do you recommend?
I know for me that the self tapes that I watch, um, where here's all right. I have a couple of different thoughts,
Yep.
but if you have an actor who's engaged, I think for a lot of the self tapes that I see where the reader is engaged, I think that you're seeing a better performance from the actor because they're engaged in a real dialogue and a real back and forth, you know?
Yeah.
I think that there are actors who are strong enough to be able to still give you a good performance, even when they're reading with a reader who's offering a sort of a flat performance. Um, and I think the reason why sometimes people recommend to have your reader read flat so that it doesn't distract from what you're doing. But I think as long as the reader isn't too loud, you know, that I don't think that there's anything wrong with them being engaged. The only time that I read or I see a self tape and I'm like, oh man, the reader is sort of hurting it is one if they're doing a poor job acting.
Yeah.
And so like, man, that reader is really bad. That's how it can be distracting.
Yep.
The self-tape. Or if they're just like right next to the camera and they're really loud. So I think that that would be the thing to maybe more be concerned about. But I think, if you are lucky enough to have access to a reader who's a solid actor and can sort of be engaged with you, I think that that's what you want. And I would not want to watch a self-tape where the reader was purposefully being flat.
And more often than not, that if you're in there in the studio with the casting director, they're not flat. They're usually giving that, an actor read. I don't know a better way to put it, but so I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Diana said, "How can a new actor get an agent without much in their reel? Chicken and egg problem."
That's a good question. So everybody has to start somewhere, right? Um, yeah, I think that there are lots of different ways to sort of like start to build your career. And I was just talking to a new actor recently about this. And so, obviously when you're first getting started, like you said, chicken and egg, it's like, well, I wanna get opportunities. I want to get an agent, but I don't have the opportunity, so I can't get the agent. But there's lots of things that you can do to start to build and get to the point where an agent would be interested in you, before you can have the agent. I always recommend if you get an opportunity to at least be an extra once or twice. Don't become a career extra. And that's a mistake that sometimes actors make, that they come to you and they've got a roster or a resume full of, I've been an extra and a stand-in on everything. And if that's what you want to do, if you just enjoy sort of being on sets and being, working as an extra, that's great. But if your goal is to be a principal and, and get to like really build an acting career, then yeah, once you do it like once or twice and you've had that experience, you've been on a real set, sort of like what it looks like, good. But otherwise, I think that there are lots of opportunities out there to work on short films, student films, independent. And honestly, I always feel like that opportunities like that are going to be more beneficial to you than even getting to have a one-line co-star role on a big TV show. Obviously, you do want to start to get those and start to build the credits. But when you get an opportunity to have a meaty role in an independent film or whatever, one that's going to be great for your reel, assuming that it's shot well and it looks good and all that. But otherwise, you're getting an opportunity to really sort of like flex your acting muscles. So yes, I think whatever chances that you get to, and there's all different kinds of student independent shorts out there of varying degrees of goodness. Um, but I think it's, that's part of the work that you do as an actor and sort of like building your network and, sort of being able to connect with people and sort of learn what you can about the people that are producing the project that you're thinking about submitting to. Like, is this actually going to be a good project? Am I going to learn? Is this going to be beneficial to my growth as an actor? Or am I going to find myself on one of these sets where I'm like, why did I agree to do this?
Yeah.
But yeah, once you start to get, a handful of those on your under your belt, and of course along with training and whatever else, then I think you start to put yourself in a position where you could be attractive to an agent that that could potentially see the value in signing you and putting energy and effort into growing your career.
Ian asked, what are useful things an actor can do to help their agent promote you?
Ooh. Well, like we said, having multiple headshots is definitely huge. Reels are also very important, especially, as you get sort of further on in your career. It's helpful in trying to get to those next levels that we are able to sort of show casting directors and show producers some of your previous work. Um, and talk to your agents about that because some agents like to have clips from all the different things, and some of them like to have a full-on reel, and some of them like to have both. At People Store we kind of use both um, for different things, but so yeah, I think that I guess generally what I'm saying is that what's the most helpful thing for your agents is to have all your materials put together, um, but other than that, I think it's just having sort of an open line of communication. We are very much an agency that's huge about building relationships with our actors, knowing what's going on in your life, knowing what it is that you're wanting to accomplish, strategizing with you on the things that we want to try to achieve, the goals and benchmarks that we want to try to set. So yeah, so it's good to check in from time to time and say, hey, I'm going to be in this play, or I'm going to do this indie film, and it's gonna, here's a link to it on Vimeo, or whatever. It's good for us to know what you're up to, and to sort of get the full breadth of your career.
And I think that's great, and that's what sets agencies apart, are the ones that are, it's more than just a submission and numbers game. It's getting to know that actor and working together and developing a plan and strategizing, and that those are keys to success. And with that, we are out of time, unfortunately. So wanted to thank everybody for being here. Wanted to thank you, Rick, for spending the time with us today. Didn't know if you had any last final words or anything that you wanted to mention before we sign off.
I guess just generally, first of all, thank you, Tommy, for having me, and thanks to everyone who tuned in. I think probably the one thing I just would want to impart to everyone who's watching, it is definitely a challenging and trying time, but you guys have such a key, important role as actors and storytellers, to uplift and to help sort of all of us as we sort of transcend this really historic time for our country, for our world. So yeah, don't forget that. And what you do is important. And the contribution that you make is valuable. So don't forget that. And keep at it. Don't give up.
Thanks, everybody. See you later. Till next time.